I'm like a few seconds late because I got some last minute questions submitted by a few of my wonderful Patreon patrons and channel members, and I still get a TikTok Shives in the chat from Dana. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Glad that you could all be here. As usual, I will be answering questions that were submitted ahead of time by my wonderful Patreon patrons and channel members, and that will be the first big hunk of the show. So if you are watching live and you have a question or something that you want to prompt me to talk about in the live chat, please, 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 if at all possible. Yes, I do love it, Dana. I do. I admit it. Please hold on to whatever you have for me in the live chat until I get through the patron and member questions, and then I will turn my full attention to the live chat for the rest of the show. So, having set it all up in such a way, let's now turn to the patron and member questions and get on with the show. And I was just squabbling with Dana in the chat. How appropriate that the first question comes from Dana, or as she is known this time, we damn well better be done by now. That referring, of course, to our reading of the classic great American novel, The Great Gatsby, which is a masterpiece that Dana doesn't like. Anyway, the question. Please describe the progress and outcome of a non-worked wrestling match between Jay Gatsby and Tom Buchanan, with Daisy watching in the front row, as though you are the announcer for the match. Happy Friday. So, okay, let's do this. I'm going to be stretching the definition of non-worked. Let's all just pretend that, kayfabe is still a thing, and we're all going on the assumption that it's a legitimate sport. Let's go with that. So I take you now to the arena, some arena in the New York area in the late summer of 1922 for this titanic bout between Jay Gatsby and Tom Buchanan. Ladies and gentlemen, the combatants now stand center of the ring, face to face, both clearly feeling the effects of this tremendous bout in which they have both been participating. The momentum has seesawed back and forth for a time. The advantage was Gatsby's. More recently, the advantage has belonged to Tom Buchanan. But now, no blows are being struck. They are both merely standing in the center of the ring, staring at each other. There appear to be some words being exchanged from both sides, from both men. I cannot make out what exactly they are saying, although Gatsby does have an expression on his face as though he may have killed a man. Of course, in the front row there we see the Golden Girl, Daisy Buchanan, a close associate of both Mr. Gatsby and Mr. Buchanan, of course, the wife of Mr. Buchanan. Some would say she herself is the entire reason for this bout taking place. She is the cause of this bitter feud that has been carrying on for the past several weeks between Jay the Great Gatsby, and Tom Buchanan, the polo player. Now Buchanan turning to the referee, grabbing the referee by his shirt front, pulling him aside, turning the referee so that his back is to the rest of the ring. Gatsby, for the moment, remaining stationary in the center of the ring, looking to the crowd for an explanation as to what Buchanan is doing to the referee. Perhaps Buchanan registering some kind of complaint, perhaps a rule infraction or claimed rule infraction on the part of Gatsby. And what's this coming down the aisle while the referee is distracted by Tom Buchanan? There's a figure moving toward the ring, has just emerged from the crowd. It's Wilson. It's Wilson, the gas station owner. He has come to the ring for some reason. Of course, Mr. Wilson bears a grudge against one or perhaps both of these combatants. He blames them for what happened, the terrible attack that befell his wife Myrtle just recently. Wilson has gone to the timekeeper's area. He has ejected our timekeeper from his seat. Wilson has picked up the folding steel chair in which just a moment ago the timekeeper was seated. Wilson now jumping up on the apron of the ring. Gatsby turning to see what this is all. Oh my God! Wilson has struck Gatsby with the steel chair. My God! Gatsby is down. He is not moving. Did you hear, ladies and gentlemen, how the report of that steel chair rang out through the arena like a gunshot? Gatsby is down. He is not moving. Daisy Buchanan looking on with concern. Now Tom Buchanan releasing the referee and turning back to the ring, playing innocent. Perhaps he is innocent, perhaps not. One cannot help but wonder if this was not all part of some prearrangement on the part of Tom Buchanan, who now walks over to the prone form, the motionless form of Jay Gatsby, rolling him over. Buchanan now lateral press, covering Gatsby's shoulders. The referee counts 1, 2. It is academic at this point. 3. Your winner by pinfall, Tom Buchanan, his hand now being raised by our referee, TJ Eckelberg, who, of course, was a practicing optometrist in his previous career. One thing's for certain, based on the man's officiating of this match, especially in its closing moments, he cannot, in fact, see everything. And now what's this on the outside? Wilson has taken the chair up again. Wilson has hit himself in the head with the chair. Wilson is down. Wilson is not moving. Buchanan has left the ring. He's approaching Daisy Buchanan in the front row. He has taken Daisy by the wrist and he is leading her down the aisle. They have disappeared behind the curtain. Daisy Buchanan, the Golden Girl, and her husband, Tom Buchanan, have left the arena. Wilson motionless on the outside. Gatsby motionless still in the ring. And at this point, having witnessed this terrible scene, if you will pardon my dramatic word choice, we may say that the Holocaust is now complete. Holocaust, of course, with a lowercase h in this particular usage. Into the ring now comes Nick Carraway, Jay Gatsby's very good friend. Carraway tending to Gatsby, who still has not moved. Carraway looking up, looking back toward the curtain, motioning his arms, waving. Carraway seems to be trying to get someone for Gatsby, but alas, no one is coming. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a terrible, shocking scene we have seen here tonight. Of course, our card for the evening is not yet complete. We still have the main event to come, which will be the advertised match of world champion Ed Strangler Lewis defending the title against Wladek Zabisco. As soon as we can have the ring cleared for that match. Yes, Gatsby now being stretchered away with Nick Carraway at his side. The ring has been cleared. I am now being told the combatants for our next match, our main event, are ready. It's time for the ring introductions for that bout. And so, we be done. Next question. From Donovan. Hey, Steve, my sort of ex, sort of not, it's complicated, boyfriend and I have been getting into Absolute Batman. Any thoughts on the series so far? The new issue has a panel of Batman snapping a neo-Nazi's arm like a pretzel. I have seen that, and I'm very happy with the idea of Batman fucking up white supremacists. I think that's a great idea, and anytime they come up with a story where Batman fucks up white supremacists, I am all for it. But I have not read Absolute Batman. I read the first issue of Absolute Batman, and it just didn't seem like it was for me. It just didn't grab me. I'm just like, this just doesn't, I'm not into it. I think the issue with that panel that everybody's talking about is the annual. So, I mean, I might check that out just out of curiosity to see how I like it, to see how it goes. But in general, I mean, I checked out the first issue and it just didn't seem like my cup of tea. But I'm very happy that Batman is fucking up neo-Nazis. That's great. Brian, it's been nearly a decade since the last Trek movie. What's up with that? And what would you hope for the next Trek movie? What's up with that is, well, there's a couple of things. Paramount doesn't want to pay the cast of the last three movies, the Kelvin timeline cast, Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Simon Pegg, Carl Urban, the principals of the Kelvin timeline version of the Star Trek cast. The studio doesn't want to pay them what they're asking to do the next movie, and that has been a major holdup. Just the studio not wanting to pay the actors what they want, what they're worth, and also a couple of attempts to start up other kinds of Star Trek movies that wouldn't have been Kelvin movies. They've failed in various stages of development. So they just haven't been able to get a new Star Trek movie off the ground. And I also think part of it is there is this assumption, there's this mindset in a lot of Hollywood executives, I think, that if you're going to do a movie like Star Trek and it's like a sci-fi action adventure franchise, then the movie has to be this long, the movie has to cost this many $100 million, the movie has to be this and this and this. And the idea of doing, you know, a 90 or 100-minute Star Trek movie that is still really exciting and has a lot of special effects and, you know, a lot of really cool sci-fi Star Trek shit, but is like, but doesn't cost, you know, the GDP of a small country and doesn't need to gross $500 million in order to break even. Like that, that notion just doesn't occur to a lot of Hollywood executives. So a lot of it is problems, I think, of the studio's own making. You know, as for what I would see for the next Trek movie, I honestly don't care as long as it's good. I honestly don't care as long as it's good. I could go for a fourth Kelvin timeline movie, although that doesn't seem to be in the cards now. The latest news is that they seem to be moving away from that. But if we got another one of those and it was good, I think that would be great because I really like that cast and I like those movies. If we get something completely different, actually, if we get something truly completely different, that would be great. If it was good. So just, you know, make it good. Make it good. That's all I want. Amara and Susan et al. Imagine you could do your own TNG DS9 Voyager sequence today, but on a streaming service. Might be more shows with fewer episodes or what have you. What would you do, or who would you trust most with the decisions? We accept an answer with more than one person at the helm. Timeline, period, when and where, or who would you like to tell their story? You know, the closest to an answer that I can give you is, and I feel like I've talked about this a little bit before, but it's been a while, so I'll mention it. I don't have like a specific pitch for what my Star Trek show would be. But I have a general idea that I think it might be fun to take the idea of Wagon Train to the Stars and make that as literal as possible and do a Star Trek show where the gimmick of the show is that the hero ship is transporting colonists to a far off planet to where they will be settled to start a new Federation colony, and it's way far out there, so it's going to take, you know, a year to get there. And so the entire season of the show is taking place during that journey out to that far destination, and they have adventures along the way. So like the continuing story arc is they're on their way to this place out, you know, in the far reaches, but along the way it's episodic. They have adventures, you know, along the way, and sometimes the adventures will center around the main, you know, the crew of the ship. Sometimes it'll center around members of the colonists that are being transported. Maybe it's not just one ship, maybe it's a little fleet of ships that are, you know, being led out there to wherever their destination is, because that's what Wagon Train was. If you've ever watched the show Wagon Train, that's what it was. They were all, every season it was a new group of people with, you know, the lead characters sort of, you know, leading the way, and it was a journey from the east to the west for settlers to settle out in California or Oregon or wherever they were going. I think it was California. And the episodes were the stories that would happen and the adventures that they would have and the trouble that they would get into along the way. And then every new season, it began with the start of a new wagon train and it ended with that wagon train reaching its destination. So that's what the Star Trek show would be. Every year they would start back, you know, at Earth or somewhere in Federation space, and they would set off, you know, for some far off colony to be settled, and the season would happen along the way. So that's my general idea. That's just a concept. I don't have any specific stories. I don't have any specific characters. I just have a general gimmick for the show. And that's what it is. So that's as close. And as far as period and timeline, it doesn't matter. I don't care, and it doesn't matter. If you know, Paramount ever got desperate enough to hire me to make this show, which is never going to happen, but if that ever, I mean, I'd throw a dart at a board. I really don't care. The time period doesn't matter to me, and it really wouldn't matter all that much to the show, for the show that I would want to make. Good question, though. Wolf Ramen Hart. Hi, Steve. My prognosticator hat predicts end to government shutdown after November 6, New Jersey and Virginia races, but before November 15, when SNAP benefits end. A shame East Wing destruction happened when no one was on watch. The plan is no future president will destroy $300 million ballroom with sunken cost fallacy. My query is, with 4,000 plus videos, ever consider compilations like Ryan George's pitch meeting? Stuffy and Friends, but an hour-long Stitched, or episodes 1 through 5 of Star Trek TOS could be useful to audience and getting views. Well, there's already one omnibus video of the first year or so of the Stuffy and Friends shorts. I have done more than enough shorts since that last one for, I think, at least one, probably two more of those omnibus videos. I just haven't had time to do it. But the intention on my part is, at some point there are going to be more, as you say, stitched together omnibus versions of those Stuffy shorts, and in one great big video. I haven't gotten around to doing it yet, but yes, that is definitely something I'm planning to do. And could I do that with other videos of mine? Yeah, probably. I've mentioned a couple of times that we keep mentioning The Great Gatsby. I am getting ready to do a reading of the entire text of The Great Gatsby in videos, where each video will be, one chapter of the book. And then after all 9 chapters are out, my intention is to stitch together like a massive, like just a fucking monstrous single video version of it, and put that out there for anybody who wants to watch it and just, turn it on and just leave it and just listen to me perform The Great Gatsby. You don't even have to watch. I mean, I'm going to be doing stuff on camera too, but you won't have to. To get the story, it's The Great Gatsby. You get it from the text, but the intention for that is eventually to do individual chapters, and then also to release it as a single, like, massive video. So yeah, that's coming down the pike at some point. So yeah, I do have plans for things like that. Yeah. Greg Gildersleeve. Steve, I enjoy your take on politics. What do you make of Kamala Harris's claim that she did not select Pete Buttigieg as her running mate because the country wasn't ready for a black woman and a gay man on the ticket? Are Dems playing it too safe by catering to the middle, whatever that means today? Would Pete on the ticket have made any difference? Going forward, how can Dem candidates promote the values they claim to stand for? Would Pete have made any difference? I don't know. It would have depended on different factors. I mean, I think that that Tim Walz could have made more of a difference than he did if the managers of the campaign would have allowed him to be more of himself and to do more of what he was good at. I think they kind of reined him in, as they reined Harris in as well, and kind of tried to keep them, in a little bit of a box in an attempt to play to the middle. They didn't want Walz and Harris going out and coming across as too progressive or too radical. I think if they had allowed them to present more in that way, they may have done better in the election. So it wasn't necessarily just the candidates. It was the philosophy behind managing the candidates and presenting the candidates. And yes, do I think Dems are playing it too safe? Absolutely they are. And they have been for a very long time. Even when Biden won in 2016 or 2020, excuse me, I would say they were playing it too safe. I mean, you can't argue with results. They won the election, but still, I think the overall message and attitude and approach of the Democratic Party for a very, very long time has been way too cautious, way too reticent, way too apologetic, and way too focused on running to the middle and appealing to these increasingly mythical, centrist swing voters who might vote Republican or might vote Democrat. They haven't made up their minds, instead of trying to appeal to the vast nation of progressive minded people who would love a candidate to vote for that they can actually believe in, but they rarely see that candidate. So, I mean, would Pete have made a difference? I don't know. Maybe Pete's a great talker. Pete's great on camera. Pete's great with people. I think Pete would be a terrific candidate. Would he have been able to be that candidate, and would it have made a difference? I don't know. I don't know. Matthew Datcher, what happened to the bunker, Presidential Emergency Operations Center, and why isn't anyone talking about it? I mean, as far as I know, it's still there. Some people have said that one of the reasons that they're building that monstrosity of a ballroom is because they're also renovating the bunker, because the bunker was underneath is underneath where the East Wing used to be, I guess is the best way to say that now. And some people have speculated that they're renovating or enlarging the bunker at the same time as they're doing stuff for the ballroom. I honestly have no idea. I honestly have no idea. And why aren't people talking about it? I guess because the presidential bunker isn't the kind of thing that they want to talk about and want to have people thinking about. Especially if you're the Trump administration and you see Trump as an increasingly unpopular and out of touch president. And then you have the story getting out in the media that, oh yeah, at the same time as his poll numbers are hitting historic lows and he's being blamed rightfully for the government shutdown, and he's making a big deal out of building a ballroom and renovating the Lincoln bathroom. Oh, by the way, he's also enlarging and, reinforcing the presidential bunker. Like that doesn't really send the most flattering or the most confident or confidence inspiring message. So yeah, but I mean, as far as I know, the bunker is still there. Maybe they're doing something with it right now, or they're upgrading it. Jim P. Hi, Steve. I'm not sure if you knew about the passing of Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky a couple of weeks ago, but he was only 29. This has highlighted some of the cyberbullying that was happening to him and how the powers that be fail so many of us. I'm sure you have had your share of hate online. How do you protect your mental health from all the negativity that is out there? Yeah, and a chess grandmaster, obviously, Daniel Naroditsky. How do I protect myself? I mean, I don't have to deal with it as much anymore. It has slacked off tremendously over the past several years, but back when I was really being hit hard with the abuse and harassment online, it really didn't affect my life on a day-to-day basis. I have always been, since I became somewhat of a figure on the internet, my philosophy has always been block and move on. So, I mean, there were times when it got difficult because I was having to block so many people, and there were periods where it seemed like, Twitter especially was getting unusable because I would post something and it would just attract nothing but shitty comments from people. But once that calmed down, it was fine. And it's mostly fine for me now too. Like I don't really have that problem anymore. And it didn't really, again, it never affected my frame of mind. I was never depressed about it. I was never upset about it. I was annoyed by it, but it didn't have any kind of negative effect on my mental health because I had other stuff going on. First of all, for YouTube and I've always focused on the work. I've always focused on what I'm doing. And is, some anti-feminist or, neo-Nazi or whatever flavor of asshole they are, who's like making shitty videos about me or whipping up his audience to come and leave shitty replies or troll me. Like, is that going to stop me from making my next video? No, it has nothing to do with that. I've got another video to do. Like, I'm not worried about what a bunch of shitheads who don't even watch my stuff are saying about me. I'm going to do my best to get rid of them, to clear the spaces I control out of those people, so that people who do watch my stuff and do want to actually respond to stuff that I say in a good faith, constructive way will have a place to comment on it without being swarmed or without having to wade through, waist deep horse shit to leave a comment or leave a reply to something. I focus on that and on making the videos, and I don't worry about what the trolls are saying. That's how I dealt with it. And it worked pretty good for me. Gore the Windworn One. I recently told my wife I'm bisexual. Apparently so is she. What are some good queer episodes of Star Trek to watch or other adjacent shows we can watch together? I will throw this to the live chat for suggestions. I'm not necessarily the best person to ask, not being a member of the LGBTQ community myself. I know, I mean, a lot of people have said the episode, the Outcast on TNG, which is a good episode, but is a little problematic now because you can sort of see the limitations that they were working with at the time, the limited perspective from which that episode was written. I still really like that episode, but it is definitely a product of its time and is not perfect. Um, some of the Jadzia centered episodes on Deep Space Nine are good. Like Jadzia is never explicitly like a queer or trans character, but you know, there's that episode Rejoined where she meets the new it's the new host of someone who was, or no, it's the ex-wife of one of her previous hosts. So it was someone that she was in a relationship with in one of her previous lives, and they meet now in their new lives, and they kind of reconnect. And they're both women, so you know, it's on the surface, it's a gay story, but I think at the time they fell in love, Jadzia was or Dax was in a male host, so you know, it's kind of a queer story. It kind of crosses overall kind of gender boundaries. So that's a good one, and it's just a good episode. Like both of them that I'm mentioning are good episodes. But there, I mean, I'm sure there are tons of other good examples that I'm just not thinking of that would be, you know, cool to watch just from that perspective. And if anybody in the chat or in the comments later on, if people watching the archive version of this want to throw in some suggestions, please be my guest. William Tucker, what pop culture thing do you love that we don't know you love? Movie, comic, music? Um, I mean, there's stuff that I love that I don't talk about as much as other stuff, but I know I've probably mentioned it. I mean, I know I'm a big fan of magic. I know I like Penn and Teller. I like David Copperfield. Like stage, you know, just like popular mainstream stage magic. It's never been an obsession of mine. Like I've never been like a magic kid where I tried to learn tricks and become a magician myself, but it's just something that I've always had an interest in and I've always enjoyed watching. And I don't really talk about it that much, but that's something. Um what else? I mean, you know, the films of Patrick Swayze. But I feel like I've mentioned that. Like there's a lot of stuff that I've mentioned that I don't, you know, like sometimes when I do one of the MacGyver videos, I'll mention another show from the 80s that I also really love that I don't necessarily make videos about, like Knight Rider or Quantum Leap, you know, shows that I genuinely love and have a great, you know, affection for to this day. But yeah, it's not something that I'm like, I got to make videos about that. You know, when I was a kid, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, I had the action figures. I loved the cartoon. You know, again, something that I still carry with me. That is something I'm incredibly fond of. I mention it now and again. I sort of work jokes about it into stuff and references about it into stuff, but I don't really talk about it as a featured subject of this channel. But there's, you know, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. General Contact Unit Problem Child, why do you consider yourself a Star Trek fan rather than someone who just likes most Trek shows? You've been a little derisive of fans who believe Trek needs to be showcasing a particular progressive utopian future vision. You just care about good storytelling. If it does that by going against those utopian ideals, so be it. But if you don't care about those ideals, why do you care about Trek more than any other sci-fi franchise? Because surely any other sci-fi franchise is all it'd be without them. Well, there's a couple of things. I do think that Star Trek should be a progressive. I don't know, it doesn't need to be utopian, but I do think it needs to be progressive. I don't think utopianism is as central to Star Trek's identity as progressivism is. I think if you make a Star Trek show that isn't progressive, that doesn't model inclusivity and diversity, then I don't know if you're really, really making a Star Trek show, because that has been baked into the DNA of the show from the very beginning. I don't think utopianism has. I think you can do a great Star Trek show and have it not be utopian. And I think there have been many great Star Trek shows, episodes, and entire series that have not been utopian. But they've all been progressive when they have touched on politics, and they've all, represented diversity and inclusion and the positives of multiculturalism and tolerance and curiosity about people who are different than you, rather than judging and condemning people. Like, if you make a Star Trek show that doesn't have those elements, then you might be able to make an argument of, well, is that really Star Trek? But the utopian thing, I don't really think it's as central to the premise as a lot of people say. And also, I mean, whether I'm a Star Trek fan or someone who just likes a lot of Star Trek, I'm fine with either label. I really don't care what if somebody came up to me and said, you're not really a Trekkie, you're more just someone who likes Star Trek. Okay. I mean, I don't really care. Like, I don't really care what what label is attached to me. Like, it's not something I spend a lot of time personally agonizing over. Am I a Trekkie or am I just someone who likes Star Trek? It doesn't matter. I don't care. But yeah, I don't think the utopian stuff is as important to the identity of the show in its various forms as the progressivism. Neil Klein, I'm an escapee from Florida. I binge watched your best Batman ever videos. I am tempted to pony up the monthly fee and ask you to create a debate with Max. I always think Werner Herzog, so you mean Hans. His name is Hans, not Max. Or Stuffy, the voice of reason, or the Irish dude whose name escapes me. That would be Jack McPherson, which is why you need to use him more. But I keep coming up blank on a funny central argument. If Batman existed in our world, what would he do about the current administration? Sounds messy. See, no brain cells. Thoughts? So the Stuffy characters having debates about Batman, or at least doing one, having a Batman really, that would be interesting. It would be tough though, because of those three who are the three main characters now, Stuffy and Jack and Hans, I think only Stuffy is really plausible as being someone who cares about Batman, and Stuffy probably only cares about it through osmosis because of his closeness to me. Like, I really don't think that Jack or Hans would have very strong opinions at all about Batman. Stuffy probably wouldn't have very strong opinions, but he might have some opinions. But Jack and Hans, like, I have a hard time believing that Jack gives a single fuck about Batman. Hans might have some thoughts, because Hans is an actor and he's worked in the theater and he's interested in film, and maybe he has some sort of storytelling related or artistic or actory thoughts, about Batman or about the archetypes involved in Batman. But Jack, I don't think Jack gives a fuck about Batman. So that might be tough. But it's a good idea. Some random geek who is saying, no one said the word of the day. Oh, you're screaming like Pee Wee Herman. Like that. No one said the word of the day, the secret word. But Harry Potter is coming to Fortnite. Fuck. The fascist, transphobic IP is coming to Fortnite, because everything comes to Fortnite. Fortnite is a game I love to play, even though I rage at myself for sucking at the game. Leakers are saying it is coming next chapter, starting in December. It could be a part of the Battle Pass. I hope it's not a themed mini season. I am going to feel conflicted playing Fortnite. What do I do? I mean, is the Harry Potter content something you can avoid? Or like, if they do Harry Potter stuff in Fortnite, like, do you have to engage with it? Do you have to play it? That would be my question. Like, can you just not fuck with it? Like, I've never played Fortnite. Other than knowing that Fortnite is a thing that exists, I know nothing about it. So I don't know. I will say, I mean, look, if it's something you really, really love, and it's not a Harry Potter game where that's all it is and you can take it or leave it. If it's they're putting Harry Potter stuff into a larger thing that already exists and that you already support and that you already love, then it's just a decision of like, well, where's the line for you? And if you decide that playing this game and enjoying it and having that thing in your life that you enjoy, even though you say you you rage at yourself for sucking at it, if that joy that you get from having that as a hobby, as a thing to do, is more important than, not supporting Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, then that's the decision you make and you live with it. And if you decide that you don't want to do that, or you can't in good conscience do that, then you don't play Fortnite anymore and you find something else, you know? But it's up to you. And I mean, I'm sure there are lots of people who are conscientious about these issues who are facing the same decision. Um, but yeah, I really, I can't tell you what to do because it's always an individual decision. It's always on a case by case basis. So you'll probably have to wait and see what exactly the Harry Potter content is, and what place it is, what space it takes up in the game, and then decide from that point what you want to do. And I'm sorry I can't be more help than that. Here's the next one from some random geek who is celebrating the death of Dick Cheney. Oh, what a great day that was! Wasn't it? The day it started out good and it ended good, didn't it? I wonder if I am someone who lacks humanity for celebrating the death of Dick Cheney. I did share memes of the death of Charlie Kirk, but finally some good news. So who is next? Side note, Linequin and Naz's money situation just keeps getting worse, and I only have $8 in my bank after the convention I went to. Don't forget that Joanna and Joey also need help. And how the fuck is Phoenix supposed to live if they don't have money? And if I don't give them money, who will? Seriously, who will? And I'll say it right now, and then we'll bring it back at the end of the show. But charitylinks.page, if you can afford to help out those friends of ours that Geek mentions there, and some others as well who are listed in that document. Charitylinks.page, if you please, if you can afford it. David Colby is probably not going to be at the live stream, but still has a question. I'm going to a wedding. My condolences. And also, why? Adventure Time spinoff Fiona and Cake started up its second season and reminded me of the one truly unbreakable rule in writing. You can get away with anything if you're good at it. The second episode pulled the classic franchise slop move of showing the backstory of a cool character, but did it so well, I don't even care. What's your favorite example of being good enough to get away with it, except I already know it's regeneration? Well, that is one example. Another example of it that I've thought about a lot recently is Spider-Man No Way Home. I think we talked about that on our last patron hangout, the October patron and members hangout. We talked about that a little bit. We got talking about Spider-Man. Spider-Man No Way Home on paper is a movie that I would expect not to like. Just the concept of it. We're bringing back the other Spider. It's a Spider-Man party movie, and Toby's going to be there, and Andrew's going to be there, and Tom's going to be there, and it's Spider-Man from the Raimi Spider-Man, and it's Spider-Man from, and it's like, on paper, that's something that I'm just like, no, stop it. Just make a good Spider-Man movie about Spider-Man. Why does it have to be all this pandering fans? We're bringing back the old villains and the original actors, and like, oh, fuck, what the fuck are you doing? What is this navel-gazing, nostalgia bait bullshit? But it worked, right? I mean, I can't argue with it. It worked. I like that movie. They figured it out. They threaded the needle. I think that's a good movie. And I think the use of those other versions of the characters and the way they use them to actually serve the story and to serve the main Spider-Man, to serve the Tom Holland Spider-Man and his character arc, I think it all works really well. Way, way, way better than I would have thought, So that would be another really good example for me. Carlisle the Cinephile, greetings, Steve. I've noticed some people coming out and saying that they have come to regret voting for Trump, and even some previously MAGA politicians turning against him. Honestly, all I feel is contempt for these people, especially the politicians. It's all too late. It's all too little too late as far as I'm concerned. I will never forgive them for the damage they've helped cause. Am I being unreasonable here? Should I grant these people more grace? No and no. No. You're not being unreasonable, and you shouldn't grant them more grace. Let them earn it. Don't give them grace. If they want to be accepted and respected and forgiven by the rest of us, let them fucking earn it. Let them show that they've changed. Let them join us in the good fight and actually, you know, contribute. And then we'll see. But no, they you shouldn't grant them any grace. Fuck them. Fuck them. They know what they did. And if they're truly sorry, they'll understand why everybody's so fucking pissed at them and doesn't trust them. And they'll accept that. And if it matters to them, they'll work to try and make a difference and try to prove themselves. And that's what should happen. No, you're not being unreasonable, and you shouldn't grant them any grace because they haven't earned any. They've earned the opposite. They've earned scorn. And that's what they should get until they've proven, until they've demonstrated that they deserve otherwise. That's what I think. Mental ward. Your discussion of nothing but trouble inspired this question. In your college education that was necessary for your English degree, did you ever learn why batshit has its own name? All other shit is just called name of animal shit, but batshit is guano for some reason. I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect it's because guano is a commodity. Like guano is collected, is mined, is used for industrial purposes. So I suppose perhaps they wanted to call it something else. They didn't want to say, we're going to the batshit mine, or our company is the number one supplier of batshit. I don't think they called it guano for that reason. Again, I didn't look this up. I don't know if that is the reason, but I suspect it's because guano was and has been commercialized and industrialized in some way. But if anybody knows the real answer, if that's not it, then please feel free to share it. Lee, why don't you explain, endorse, disapprove of the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact? The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, for people that don't know, is an effort to get states to agree to award their electoral votes to the winner of the national popular vote, regardless of the results of their individual states. And it's a way of kind of doing an end run around the electoral college. It's a way of abolishing the electoral college without having to actually legally abolish it. I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, I think it might be preferable to the electoral college as we currently operate it. But there are other ways of dealing with that too. Maybe the popular vote interstate compact would be a good kind of intermediate step on the way to just getting rid of the electoral college. Maybe it might be worth it for that reason. But I don't really talk about it. I haven't really made any videos talking about it and endorsing it or disapproving it or anything, because for one thing, I really don't think it's going anywhere. I could be wrong, but at this point, I really don't see that it's going anywhere. And yeah, it's not as though it's the only thing we can possibly do, but I don't have a problem with it in concept. I think it's a perfectly fine idea to try. And I just explained what it is for anybody who doesn't know. So thanks for asking. Agent Meister, who's terrified beyond the capacity for rational thought. Oh boy, Egon. Peldor Joy, Steve, it's nearly 10 years since your first Trek Actually video. How much has your approach to producing these videos changed in the last decade? Obviously, the equipment you used has improved, cameras, mics, editing software, set dressings. But how much has your writing, research, hypothesizing techniques evolved, if at all? Is there anything that you did on day one that you still do today, apart from the baseball cap, of course, and your favorite live-action Alfred Pennyworth is? The thing that's really changed the most over the course of the Trek Actually videos is just out of necessity. I think the writing has had to get deeper and more thoughtful and more creative, because you run out of the big Star Trek related questions pretty soon. You know, like I think my second video was, does the transporter actually kill you? And then the third video was, is Captain Janeway really a good captain or a bad captain or something like that? And like there are, maybe a half dozen, maybe a dozen big questions or popular questions or topics that Star Trek fans like to argue about that you can do videos about. And I'm pretty sure I've covered all of those and covered them, relatively early in the run of the Trek Actually videos. And once you get past that, once you get out into the deeper water, you think, okay, do I still want to do this? Is this still worth doing? And to me, I decided it was. It was a good outlet, and it's been a successful series for me. So I wanted to continue doing it, and I felt like creatively I could. So then you have to think, okay, well, where do I take it? You know, and the topics become less obvious. They don't suggest themselves as much or as obviously as they did back in the beginning. You have to kind of dig for it. You have to think of things. You have to be creative. Um, and that's what I've done. So that's the big difference. And also, just in the last few years, since I started also doing the retro episode reviews, um, I've tried to, when I do the Trek Actually videos, the longer video essays, I try to find topics and to write them in ways that don't rely quite so heavily on the jokey episode summaries, which used to be just the spine of the Trek Actually videos. But now I do one of those for every single retro review. And I still do them for the Trek Actually videos as well, if there's a reason to. But if I'm doing it for if I'm doing one for an episode that I've already reviewed in a retro review, then I need to do it in a different way. Like I need to do a jokey episode summary, but I need to do it from a different point of view, and I need to write different jokes, and maybe I need to do it in a way that kind of focuses more on whatever the larger topic of the video is. So I just you just have to be more creative, and I've tried to do that, and hopefully I've succeeded more often than not. But yeah, that's the only big difference, and that just comes from having done it so much and having basically picked all the low hanging fruit and having to find other stuff. And favorite live action Alfred Pennyworth is, of course, Michael Caine. Michael Caine. Jim Baker, I'm drawn to thoughtful, intelligent people, which is why I've been chilling with you all these years. Oh, thank you. Another such person is Alex O'Connor. Have you heard of him? Smart man, very articulate. I really enjoy his debates. My question is, what are your thoughts on his theory of moral emotivism? I can't quite wrap my mind around it. I can't either because I've never heard of it and I've never heard of him. So I apologize for my ignorance, and I can't really answer your question because I've never heard of him, and I don't know what moral emotivism is. So if I ever look into it and I learn about it and I decide that I can wrap my mind around it, then I will surely let you know. The Grumpy Monkey. How now, Steve? I'm guessing you've seen the two Addams Family movies from the early 90s. If so, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. Did you ever watch the cartoon or the 60s sitcom? And do you have a favorite character overall? For me, it's Gomez, thanks solely to Raul Julia's portrayal. And I'm sorry to say that I'm on Team Dana when it comes to The Great Gatsby. I thought it was on the brown side of meh. Sorry, well, not really. I love the Tolkien Lord of the Ring movies, so now we're even. I need to make a note to delete you from my supporters. No, I'm kidding. I've seen, yes, I saw both of those Addams Family movies from the 90s in theaters. I went and saw them while they were, playing on the big screen. I love those movies. I love both of them. What's the interesting thing is, I didn't really like Addams Family Values at first. When I first saw it, I was disappointed. I didn't think it was funny. And then I went back to it years later and watched it again, and it just killed me. It was hilarious. And to this day, I think it's hysterical. But for some reason, when I first watched it, I left the theater thinking, that was disappointing. I didn't think that was all that great. But now I love it. And I love both of them. And I'm with you on Gomez. I think Raul Julia's Gomez is my favorite. I love his performance, especially in Addams Family Values. I see now is tremendous. His commitment to that character is just amazing. I mean, they're all. I mean, Angelica Houston as Morticia is fantastic. They're all great. They're like that whole cast is great. The kids, um, Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester, like they're all terrific. But I think Raul Julia is my favorite too. Um, I probably watched a few episodes of the cartoon, but I don't really remember. I watched a few episodes of the 60s version as well. I remember that a little better because I've seen more of it, but I can't really think of any. I can't summon like a specific favorite episode for you or anything. But yes, I did watch the 60s version and I did watch the cartoon. But the version that lives in my head most clearly is the movie version. Far Grim, hello from me and my husband. I hope you are doing well. This may sound a bit random, but have you ever seen The Keys of the Kingdom, 1944? It stars Gregory Peck along with other supporting actors like Vincent Price, who I believe is the greatest actor of the 20th century. I consider the film to be Gregory Peck's finest performance. I know most people say To Kill a Mockingbird is, but I'd love to hear your thoughts if you've seen it. If you haven't, what's your favorite Gregory Peck film? I haven't seen it, but now I really want to see it. I'm going to put that on my to-watch list because I love Gregory Peck. I like Vincent Price too. I would not say Vincent Price is my choice for the greatest actor of the 20th century, but Vincent Price is great. Yeah, but Gregory Peck is one of my favorites. I will definitely be watching that soon. Thank you for that recommendation. My favorite Gregory Peck movie, oh man, Roman Holiday. Roman Holiday, I think, is my favorite Gregory Peck movie. I have a bunch though. Like I also, Gentleman's Agreement is great too, and sadly, continually relevant to our modern times. But if I had to pick a favorite, I would be Roman Holiday. Lynn Kibblemom, hi Steve. I hope you are doing well. So we all know who your best friend is in real life. Hi Jason. But what fictional person would you be besties with, and why? Um, Dalton from Roadhouse. And I feel like that that answers its own question. Who wouldn't want to be best friends with Dalton from Roadhouse? So yeah, because he's the coolest, because he's the greatest bouncer who ever lived, and who wouldn't want? I know he would say, he would say that Wade Garrett is the greatest bouncer who ever lived, but that's just because he's modest, and that modesty is part of what makes Dalton so cool. So, Dalton. And if you still don't know why, watch Roadhouse and you'll see why I choose Dalton. The original Roadhouse, I should say. The Jake Gyllenhaal version is good too. I actually like the Jake Gyllenhaal, the new Roadhouse. I thought it was good. I liked it, but nothing compares to the original Roadhouse. Patrick Swayze, baby, Patrick Swayze. Stephen G. Clenard. Hey, Steve, is it ethical to take a shit on someone's grave? I'm thinking of taking a road trip to Wyoming. Oh, interesting. Just a random state you picked. Of course, yes, it's ethical to shit. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, you're shitting on a grave, so there's just a dead person under there. They don't know the difference. What are you insulting them? Like they don't even know what's going on. And you're fertilizing the ground. The grass growing over that grave is going to come up so thick and lush because of the nutrients that you have given to the soil. So, yeah, it's completely ethical. I say shit on graves. Simon Moody, a Star Trek series idea. A lone operative on a pre-warp planet working to keep the population unaware of the truth of the galaxy, using local friends as assets who are obviously not told the full truth. There would be tension with them not being told the full truth and use of conspiracy theories to redirect public perception. A small team would also work, but a single Starfleet person helps make it even more unlike other Star Trek shows. As its location is static, you also get the benefits DS9 had. Thoughts? It's an excuse me. It went down the wrong hole. It's an interesting idea. But going back to what 255 AD said in their question earlier about, does Star Trek need to be utopian or progressive in order to be Star Trek? I feel like this might be an idea that is so different that you would end up asking the question, like, why is this even Star Trek? Like, it's a really neat idea for a show. And I'm not saying that it couldn't be a Star Trek show. It very easily could be a Star Trek show. And, going back to what David Colby said, if it works, it works. That's the most important thing. If it's good, then you get away with it. But the idea doesn't jump out at me as, oh, this is a Star Trek show. It sounds like this is a sci-fi show. It could be a Star Trek show if you wanted it to be, but it could easily just be a completely independent original sci-fi show about an agent of some, interplanetary alliance that has decided to study this planet and keep it a secret. And, there you go. But no, it's an interesting idea for sure. It's an interesting idea. No doubt about that. Brian McKinley. Hey, Steve, now that the 2025 elections were officially a blue wave, which I love, what do you think the chances are that Trump tries to stop the 26 midterms from happening at all? I'm genuinely worried. Maybe he might try, but the thing that a lot of people forget is that our elections, we don't have a single election. We have 50 state elections that are coordinated when it comes to federal elections. So the 26 midterms, that's not one single nationwide election. That's 50 elections held in the 50 states that are managed and, carried out by those states. So is it possible? And many of those states, thankfully, are still controlled by Democrats. So Trump might try to exert some influence on the states where he has influence over the state government and try to, pull something, underhanded. I mean, that's the whole deal in Texas. They redistricting in Texas, which then is now causing California and Virginia to also, and possibly even my own state of Maryland. We've talked about it as well, drawing new district maps to minimize the number of Republican seats that we would likely send to the next Congress. So, I mean, is it possible that Trump would do something? Yes. Would I ever trust him not to try and do something against the law or against the Constitution for his own benefit? No, of course he would do that, at any time. But I'm a little worried about it. It's not something that keeps me awake at night. And it's not something that I realistically expect. But I do have it on my mind so that if it does start to happen, I'm not caught flat-footed going, I can't believe this. What's going on? You want to have an awareness and a readiness, but I would not say that I'm genuinely worried. But I mean, is there a chance that he tries something? Yeah, there is. And we should be watchful. Cast Iron Chaos. I saw an editorial with a satirical title, Democrats shocked by the landslide election of left-wing candidate offering left-wing policies to left-wing voters. So, fellow Democrats, what have we learned? If you want to get young people to vote, stop running 70-year-old establishment players who are still trying to suck up to the center. Nancy Pelosi took the hint and will be stepping down when her term ends. Their time is over. Please, DNC, take the hint. Oh, my friend, from your mouth to the DNC's ears. I would love to see it. I really hope that somebody in a position of influence within the Democratic Party takes this as a hint that, hey, we don't need to run from being progressive. We can actually make that a focal point. We don't have to apologize. We don't have to. Can we please have health care, please? Can we please feed poor people, please? Like, if it's okay with you, if it won't upset you too much, can we maybe keep Medicare and Medicaid around? Maybe, please. That doesn't have to be the attitude. It should exactly be the opposite. It should be, why the fuck aren't we taking care of people? Why the fuck aren't we trying to solve these problems? Democrats should not be running from their identity as the progressive party. They should be proving that identity. They should be forging it. They should be saying, yes, this is who we are. And this is how we win. So, yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm not necessarily expecting it to happen really soon. I'm sure there are plenty of people in the mainstream establishment of the party that are saying that it's an off-year election. Don't make too big of a deal about it. You know, like, don't draw any broad conclusions. And there is a certain wisdom to that, but at the same time, like, come on. You know, how can you not see that there is an appetite in the country for not Republican light, not still kind of shitty, but not as shitty as the Republicans, but for a genuine, truly bold, progressive party who will fight for the working class, who will fight for the marginalized, who will stand up for equality across all categories: economic, social, gender equality, racial equality, and will not apologize for it, and will not try to hide from it, and will not throw marginalized groups under the bus if they think that will help. That will actually be brave and courageous and bold. You know, there's a hunger for that. And if people in the DNC can't see that, or are too afraid to reach for that, then hopefully they will be pushed aside and replaced by people who can and who will. JDC, hey Steve, hope you're doing well. Today I have been summoned for jury duty. Have you ever had the pleasure? So far, my strongest impression is that it's costing me $40 to park. Let's hear it for justice and democracy. You sound like my dad. My dad was called for jury duty several years ago, and that was basically his takeaway from it as well. That parking was a pain in the ass. I have been summoned, but I've never had to go. I got a letter in the mail maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. And I sent the form back in saying that I was asking to be excused because I'm even, back then, just as now, like, YouTube is my job. And I said, I'm a video producer. I have a YouTube channel. It's my main source of income. And if I am, impaneled in a jury, especially if it ends up taking a while and I'm not able to work and make YouTube videos, and then that will negatively affect my income and my economic situation. And I got out of it. So hooray. But so no, I've been summoned, but I've never actually sat on a jury. Kara the Tolkien Nerd. Hi, Steve. I've been rereading some of my Batman comics. Two of my faves are Venom and Prey. Which of those do you prefer, and do you think they're both excellent? Kara. I do think they're both excellent. I like them both very much. But I prefer Prey. I think Prey is one of my favorite Batman stories. I think it was either the first or the second storyline from Legends of the Dark Knight. I think it might have been the first. I think Prey was the first and Gothic was the second. And goddamn, talk about a great way to start a new comic series. This was back in 91, 92, I think, maybe, when Legends of the Dark Knight started. And the first storyline was Prey, and then the second storyline was Gothic, which is legitimately one of the greatest Batman stories ever published. Just an absolute masterpiece, written by Grant Morrison, art by Klaus Janson. It's one of my favorite Batman stories ever. So yeah, I mean, Prey isn't that good. Prey isn't as good as Gothic to me, but Prey is fantastic. I really, really like it a lot. I like Venom too. Venom is interesting because it's a drug addiction story with Batman as the guy who has to kick the habit, which I think is a really interesting angle that they had not really explored all that much up to that point. And it was written by Denny O'Neil. And of course, the story itself is really good and has value in its own, on its own, which is the most important thing. But then it was also a stepping stone to get to Bane, because Venom, it introduces the Venom drug that is eventually revealed as the power source of Bane, who goes on to become a hugely important villain in the 90s, and subsequently. So I mean, I like Venom a lot, but my favorite of the two is Prey. I really like Prey, and now I want to go back and reread it, and maybe read Gothic again too. No Kings pays extremely valuable dividends. Hello, Steve. John here. I know. Brevity, brevity, brevity. I'll try. I hate to say this, John, but you're not trying so far. We don't need any of this. Like if brevity is your concern, just cut out everything before seriously. and you're doing much better on brevity. But anyway, nonetheless, you made it work clearly. Um, Seriously, this past Tuesday night had a politically blissful conclusion. A Democratic clean sweep, and seemingly none of the contests were all that close at their respective conclusion. What an honest, powerful punctuation on the night given by the victorious mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani. What an oratory. In conclusion, congratulations to Miss Nancy Pelosi on her upcoming, well-deserved retirement. I can only second all of that. I agree completely. It was a great night. Mamdani is a terrific candidate and will hopefully be a terrific mayor for those folks up in New York City. I'm incredibly happy for him and for the city. Um, I take it as a very, very encouraging sign. And yes, congratulations to Nancy Pelosi for her upcoming retirement. Well deserved. I wish her only the best. Technical questions. Hi, Steve. John again. One, you only have a very few members only videos. Would you mind producing some more members only content? Two, how many members and patrons does your channel currently have in total? Bonus, a couple of askaways ago, you mentioned willingness to produce a production. Why Hulk Hogan in ring was always a heel. Please consider putting this would-be video at least as a mid-level priority on your upcoming production schedule. Your style plus this topic equals good viewing. I mean, I agree, but the catch there is for the people who view it. The only thing that has really kept me from making that video is I'm pretty sure it's not going to do very well. And that's not a reason not to do it. Like I do videos all the time that I know ahead of time are probably not going to do very well, but I do them anyway because it's an interesting topic and I'm guided by that. I'm not guided by chasing views. But that is a consideration sometimes when I'm deciding how best to spend my time. And for whatever reason, my channel's wrestling videos just don't do well. There are some people who are interested in hearing me talk about wrestling, but most people aren't. So those videos usually don't do very well. But I'm going to do the Hulk Hogan was always a heel video eventually, because I do think it's a really good topic. And it's something I've thought about for a long time. And it's an interesting lens to critique not only Hogan, but also critique wrestling and specifically 80s and early 90s WWF and the way they did storytelling and the assumptions that they based their stories on. And it's just there's a lot there that I think when I do eventually make the video will be really interesting and really good to the handful of people that watch it. Would I do more members only content? Yeah, if I can think of stuff to do. I'm not going to break my back to do it. Because I don't think that has ever been the main draw of people becoming channel members or becoming patrons. My pitch for patrons and members has always been, if you like what I do and you want to help me continue to do it, then consider becoming a patron or a member. And I do offer a little bit of bonus content and a little bit of like extra features that other people don't get, but that's never been the main reason why I ask people to become a member or a patron. There's a little bit of bonus content every now and then, but it's not something that I have ever, led with. And how many do I currently have in total? Counting channel members and patrons, a couple of thousand. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. MW Ridra, hi Steve. Have you given any thought to what you would do if ICE started kidnapping people right in front of you? I live in Los Angeles and get online alerts from time to time of raids nearby, some as close as a couple of miles, but it is yet to happen right where I am. I'm not Rambo. I can't take down a squad of violent, heavily armed goons regardless of how incompetent they are. Just record, I guess. Feels cowardly while human rights violations are happening, but I don't know what else to do. Well, we use the tools we have. I'm like you. I don't think I would be getting involved physically. not just for my own protection, but because what difference is it going to make? Like, you're not going to fight off ICE. Like, that's not how this is going to, I hate to tell all the people with like these hero fantasies, that's not how this is going to work. You know, if enough people get together and make a crowd, then ICE, there have been instances of ICE deciding that discretion is the better part of valor and backing off and leaving, but it's not like they leave for good. It's not like they're gone forever. It's not like you never have to worry about them after that. Um, and absent something like that where it's a strength in numbers situation, like, yeah, you as an individual intervening as much as you might want to, as much as your heart might go out to the person being harassed by them, you have to think, oh, what good am I going to do? What difference is this going to make? you know and maybe it's better to just take out your phone and record it. In my case, maybe I would make a video about That's not much. That wouldn't fix the problem either, but that's what I do. I would do what I do, and I would do it for, hopefully toward a positive purpose as far as that goes. I mean, I don't think it would make a huge difference, but it would be me doing my tiny little part. So yeah, I would do that. I mean, I'm like you. I would probably feel bad. I would probably wish I could do more, but I would also recognize that I can't, and I would do what I can do. Isaiah Taylor. So, Steve, which one are you? Do you believe that the current millennium began on January 1st, 2000 or January 1st, 2001? This is sort of a follow-up from my previous Ask Away question about time capsules. As you can tell, I'm very interested in the concept of time. Here is a link to ABC's Millennium Celebration. It brings a tear to my eye every time I see it. So immersive and powerful. I don't really have a preference for whether we start counting the millennium in 2000 or 2001. What I find interesting is that both of them are completely valid. It just depends on which version you accept. Like there were people making kind of a mathematical argument and saying, no, it has to be 2001 because if you add up all the years, like that's 1,000 years. The year 2000 doesn't make 1,000 years. It's, and then there were people that just were not, they just didn't care about that. And they said, yeah, but it's 2000. Like that's when it rolls over. It goes from 1900 to 2000. So that's what we're going to celebrate. And that's what they did. And the people that were like, but it's got to be 2001. Well, sorry, we're not celebrating that. We're celebrating 2000. And to me, they're both equally valid because it's all about, it's the way we measure time is just a construct. If a bunch of us get together and decide the new millennium starts when it rolls over to 0 and not when it rolls over from 0 to 1, then that's what it is for us. If someone else says, no, it's got to be 2000. Okay, well, then you start counting there. Okay. I mean, it's the same years either way. Like we're all on the same calendar. It's just some people said, well, the new millennium starts this year. And other people said, no, the new millennium starts next year. That doesn't really matter. You don't need to know what millennium it is in order to use the calendar and be on the same schedule as everybody else. You just need to know what year it is and what day it is. And we all agree on that. We just don't agree on when the millennium started. But it doesn't matter. But I think it's interesting too. But the subjectivity of it and the conditional nature of it, the contingent nature of it, is interesting to me. Jan, what a week! All this and Pelosi retires. So good, but I am filled with disgust at the thought of the so-called Gatsby party on Halloween. First, I doubt the Orange Man ever read the book or that he could ever grasp the irony. But to me, the scenes of the party looked more like the Kit Kat Club in the movie Cabaret, i.e. fascist excess and indulgence. Thoughts? Thanks, Steve, and happy Friday. Yeah, I mean, of course, Trump has never read The Great Gatsby. He's probably never seen Cabaret either, but I guarantee you he's never read The Great Gatsby because that would require reading. But no, you can pick that apart in a dozen different ways. I mean, obviously, I thought when I heard about it, as someone who loves the book and has recently been reading the book, I thought, Oh, it's people who either haven't read it or who read it and didn't get it. Because a major part of the point of The Great Gatsby, of the theme of The Great Gatsby, is to point out the hollowness and the corrosiveness of that kind of wealth. Like, spoiler alert, things don't turn out very well for Gatsby at the end. Like, Gatsby does not get a happy ending. And that book is not, by any stretch of the imagination, an endorsement of that kind of life. Quite the opposite. It's not, it doesn't, it's meaningful that the book ends with the protagonist fleeing the city and going back home to the Midwest. Like, that's an important part of the book. So people just, the Trump and his people just put a label on it and said, we're having a Great Gatsby party, because they think they associate it with, excess and wealth and ostentatiousness and great legendary parties. And, that's what they think. So that's what they did. And they said, we'll call it the Great Gatsby party. Okay. I mean, that's not really the point of the book, but whatever. But yeah, fascist excess and indulgence is literally what it was. So you're on the right track there for sure. Arrow on Fire, who is a totally real person. It's true, I swear it. Hi, Steve. I tried NYPD Blue and decided I don't feel like such a heavily serialized and rather sad show. Fair enough. I also watched one episode of Smallville, but didn't particularly like it. Do you like that show? Does it get better later? How would you characterize it? What can someone expect from it? Best wishes. I liked Smallville. I gave up on it eventually, but I liked Smallville. For me personally, it got really good starting in season 2. So if you do decide not to give up on it and you kind of push through the first season I think is okay. It's fine. Like, I didn't give up on it when it was originally airing. I watched it, but it wasn't like one of my favorite shows or anything. But in season 2, it did become one of my favorite shows. I think season 2, it gets really, really good, and it stays pretty good with some ups and downs, but it stays pretty good for a few more years. Like, it has a nice little sweet spot for maybe seasons 2 through 4 or 5, where, for me at least, it was really good on a fairly consistent basis, and then it started to go downhill. And eventually I just stopped watching. But yeah, when it's, I would, if you can stand it, if it doesn't chase you off, I would say at least hang in there until you get to season 2 and see how you like that. Because I remember it getting a lot better at that point. Russell, hey, Steve, tomorrow I will be doing a Buffy and Angel hangout, and we're doing the episode A New World. This is the first full episode of Teenage Connor. Many people I know, including those that will attend this hangout, aren't fans of the character. If I remember correctly, Steve, you said you liked Connor, so I was kind of hoping you would share why does he work for you as a character, and it also begs the question, is Angel a bad dad? I mean, I just kind of remember there's no really big reason for me that Connor doesn't work. Like, he was never my favorite character in the show. I never tuned in thinking, I wonder what Connor's going to do, but I never had any dislike for him. There was never anything about him that made me think, oh God, what are they doing with this guy? Why is he on the show? Like, I thought he was fine. And when he was on the show, he was an important part of it. He was like a focal point of his seasons. And I thought he was fine. So it's not really, I can't really remember anything specific about like, this is why this character works. It was more like, there's not really a major reason that jumps out at me why he doesn't work. He's fine. Is Angel a bad dad? I mean, I guess maybe you could say that, but you could also make the opposite argument. Like, he wasn't really there for Connor in Connor's adolescence and his formative years, but that wasn't Angel's fault. And if Angel was less than a perfect father in the years after that, when Connor returned as a teenager, well, I mean, that wasn't exactly Angel's fault either. And I think he did the best he could. And honestly, as we know from our discussions previously about Worf, I really don't care if a character is a good dad or a bad dad anyway, as long as they're a good character. Like, Worf was a shitty dad, but I'm completely on Worf's side on that conflict. And if push came to shove, even though I like Connor a lot more than I liked Alexander on Star Trek, if push came to shove between Connor and Angel, I would be siding with Angel because that's my dude. And I like you, Connor. I got nothing against you. But like, if it comes down to you and Angel, I'm choosing Angel. Sorry, buddy. You know? Brian Baker, Steve, the Republican answer seems to be you can eat when you give up health care. What the fuck? Health care and food should be part of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Fuck Trump and the maggots who follow and indulge him. Thanks. It's another one that I can just agree with. I agree 100%. Food and healthcare should not be commodities. They should be recognized as essentials for life. They're literally the bare essentials, and people should have access to them separate from their ability to pay for them, because they are literally basic necessities of life. They should not be people's access to them should not be limited or determined by their ability to pay for them. So yeah, I agree with you. They should be part of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they are. They are. It's just that there are too many walls put up between people and getting to them. Russell Member. This is a topic about AI and Star Trek. And maybe you already did a video about this. I'm not good at keeping up. I recently told people I would be unsure about my feeling towards AI from a writing perspective. A fictional one, at that is one thing. But what about if we ever did have a being like the Doctor or Data? At what point do we say they would be alive? Keep in mind, Trek deals with this in Redemption Part 2. Commander Guest Star doesn't want to work for Data. There are several examples. Your takes? Well, by the time we get to beings like Data or the Doctor, a lot of the questions that we have and a lot of the problems that we have with what we have as AI today, or what we call AI today, have been resolved. Data and the Doctor are conscious beings, and they have independent thoughts, and they interact with the world on their own without being prompted. Generative AI models that we have today are not like that. A generative AI model, if there is no user input, it will just sit there on a computer hard drive and do nothing. It doesn't have a life. It doesn't have a consciousness. It doesn't have thoughts and feelings and opinions of its own. It's a computer program that responds to prompts. So it is in no sense alive or thinking or feeling or conscious or sentient. It is nothing even close to that. It's a computer program it's a very impressive, sophisticated computer program that responds to user input. That's not Data. Data's out there walking around doing stuff, making his own decisions. So that's a very, very important distinction between something like ChatGPT and something like, or someone like Data or the Doctor. And finally, Captain. Hey now, Steve, proud New Jerseyite here. I voted for Mikey, and I'm thrilled to have been involved in some small part of one of our nation's several victories for democracy. That's what I tell people now if they're wondering what my political alignment is. Democracy. I shouted out with an accent like Obi-Wan at the end of episode 3. Feel free to try that yourself. Democracy. I can't remember how Obi-Wan shouted it because I blocked out most of the prequels. One of my favorite shouted movie lines. Have you any favorite shouted movie lines yourself? Okay, thanks, bye. Don't stop, be Steven. Favorite shouted movie lines. Oh, you're tearing me apart, Lisa! Don't touch me, motherfucker. They're all lines from the room. They're all lines from the room. Where's my fucking money, Daddy? What'd you do with my fucking money? You're not my fucking mother. Yeah, they're all lines from the room. They're all lines from the room. All right. I need to, as usual, reboot my live chat viewer, but that's it for the patron and member questions. Thank you all. I'm going to do this before the stuffy short for a change. But yeah, so that was it for the patron member questions. Thanks everybody for being a patron and a member and for submitting all of those great questions. And after I get this taken care of and get the chat viewer running again, it is going to be time for a brand new Stuffy and Friends Short. And there it is. Hi, everybody. And I will be paying full attention to the live chat momentarily. But first, it's stuffy time. And this is a brand new. Oh, I Am Spartacus is a good one. Try NDA 1701. Con or I'm Spartacus. That's a good one. Anyway, Stuffy and Friends short. You get to watch it now because you are watching the live stream. It will go up as its own standalone YouTube short on this channel tomorrow at noon Eastern. But you don't have to wait that long. You can watch the brand new Stuffy short right now. So please do enjoy this brand new Stuffy and Friends short.
Hey. Hey, I hope I didn't wake you.
It's okay.
I made a cup of herbal tea. Did the sound of the machine disturb you?
Oh, no, you're good. Don't worry about it.
I was asleep.
I didn't know we had herbal tea K-cups.
I got some last week. I romanticize making tea with a kettle, but I must admit, sometimes I want something faster.
Can I try one? What have you got there? Chamomile?
Uh-huh. Help yourself. Why couldn't you sleep? Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just couldn't fall asleep, that's all. I was just lying there thinking. Like, my brain wouldn't go to sleep, you know?
Oh, yes.
Same thing for you, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So what thoughts were keeping you up?
Just everything, I suppose. I thought about how bad things are. He's still sending ICE out into communities to arrest and deport people. He's robbing trans people of basic rights. He's extorting money from TV networks and now the Justice Department. He's ordering malicious prosecutions against his enemies. He's demolishing parts of the White House to serve his own vanity. He's destroying the economy and the government's ability to function on a daily basis. Then I thought about how much worse things can still get. And I asked myself, is it possible we don't survive this? As a country? And if we don't, what does our future look like?
Yeah.
What about you? What was it that kept your brain from going to sleep?
Well, like I said, I was just laying there in the dark, staring up toward the ceiling, and there was this question that I was fixated on that I just couldn't get out of my head.
What was it?
Why did Hulk Hogan use a leg drop for his finish? I mean, his whole gimmick was built around his arms. The 24-inch pythons, the largest arms in the world, and he wins all his matches with a leg drop? Doesn't follow at all. Why didn't he use a lariat for a finish like he did in Japan?
I suddenly feel very tired. I think I'll go back to bed now.
Wow. I hope the chamomile works that fast on me.
The chamomile, yes. Good night, Steve.
Good night, Steffi. He even gave the lariat a cool name. The Axe Bomber. What did he call the leg drop? The big leg. Just doesn't make sense. I like that one. And hey, Hulk Hogan related content, just by sheer coincidence. There was a Hulk Hogan related question. Let's see. I know there was a super chat earlier from your friend and mine. Oh, Trinda. Thank you very much. I will remember to pronounce it that way, or I will make an effort to remember to pronounce it that way. Stephen Clenard had a super chat a while ago that said, Wade Garrett's getting old. He's still the best. Now look at that. I just fixed it, and now it just fucking took a shit on me again. I don't like that at all. Anyway, I don't care for that. While that is fixing itself, let's see what else people say. People suggesting their own shouted lines. Yeah, cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war. That's a good one. Khan, obviously, I just said that from Trinda. Everyone, Captain Kyle. That's a good one. and a lot of Al Pacino ones. Somebody say, Brian Baker said Attica. That's a good one. She got a great ass from Heat. For a lot of pretty much every memorable Al Pacino line from like the the late 80s on, especially once you get into the 90s. Al likes to yell. Yeah, yeah. Air on fire. That you mean Stuffy saying, "I feel tired all of a sudden. I got to go to bed." Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like that's why the wrestling videos don't do super well. Like there's a certain portion of the audience that really digs it when I talk wrestling, and most people are just like, pass, which is completely fine. Which is completely fine. I get it. But that's one reason why I don't make a huge number of wrestling videos. Cast Iron Chaos, yeah, but that's 15 minutes that, I mean, there were 39 questions this time. How long do you think it would have taken me to get through 39 questions if it was still the 1,000 character limit? Like, yeah, it doesn't cut the time down. It doesn't cut it exactly in half, but it takes a chunk out of it, which I'm happy about. I'm pleased with. Kira, it was Tails. Did you get my reference, Steve? Yes. Yes. That's a Roadhouse reference. That dastardly Brad Wesley. It was Tails. Oh, hey. Oh, man. Speaking of shouted lines, Wesley! Fuck you! There's one for you. There's a great shouted line. DS9, thank you for saying that. Thank you, patrons, for supporting this guy. Oh, thank you very much for thanking them. The law. Push the goddamn button. Jon Stewart, is that from the Simpsons movie? Is that Marge's line? Push the goddamn button. You do have to rewatch Roadhouse Air on Fire. If you have not seen it for a while, you do have to rewatch it. Matthew Spradling says, we were Andre the Giant fans, and we were convinced from his speaking that the Macho Man Randy Savage could defeat Hulk Hogan. Well, you... If only it had not been Randy Savage's job to lose to Hulk Hogan most of the time. Let me see. Sinister Intelligence says, oh, wait, hang on. Trinda says, did the Dem big wins on Tuesday give you hope for the midterms and beyond, even though Trump can still cause havoc, even if he's unraveling me? Yes, again, it gave me a great deal of hope. Okay, and then Sinister Intelligence says, is it strange that I find the graphics of that news intro so cool and awesome? The theme song was taken from an Epcot show and hosted by Peter Jennings. What did you do on New Year's Eve 1999? No, it's not strange. You like what you like. I can understand. Hi, Dana. Dana, did you see my wrestling match that I improv for you? I wasn't paying attention to the chat, so I don't know what your reaction was, if any. Did you like it? But no, it's not weird that you, or strange that you like the old school news graphics. And I honestly don't remember what I did on New Year's Eve 1999. Probably nothing special. The sci-fis. Oh man, now you're talking my language. Oh man, There Will Be Blood. The sci-fi Zipacna. Yes. I've abandoned my child. I've abandoned my child. I've abandoned my boy. And of course, how can we forget the immortal, you're a bastard from a basket. You're a bastard from a basket. I'm finished. Oh, God damn it. What a great movie. God damn it. What a great movie. Polar bear fell on me. That's another great Roadhouse line. Polar bear fell on me. Thank you, Dana. You liked it? I'm so glad. Push the goddamn button is from Rush Hour. Okay, shame on me. I haven't watched Rush Hour for a long time. DS9 says, I had a colleague who would gamble on wrestling matches. I loved the fact that you could place bets on something that followed predictable narrative trends. Yes. Oh, drainage. That's a good drainage. Drainage, Eli, you boy. Drain dry. So sorry. What a great movie. Oh my God. If you have a milkshake, and I have a milkshake, and I have a straw, and my straw reaches across the room. Oh man. God damn it. Plasma Burn Death says, can you do a stuffy bit where one of the characters finds the Epstein files on the side of the road? That's a great idea. Oh, it's a great idea. Oh, Darth Eddie says, hey, Steve, tonight marks 25 years since the 2000 election and the Florida debacle. Big ask, but how much worse off do you think we are now than we were the night they took Florida away from Gore? I mean, it's a complicated question. In some ways, we're better off. In some ways, we're unquestionably better off. You know, I mean, same-sex marriage is legal. But then you have to ask yourself, like, would it have been made legal earlier? And, you know, would we, if we, you know, would we have made the advances that we have made more quickly if Bush had not been president? Or would there have been just a different kind of backlash? I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible to know. And I mean, I think in terms of our democracy, in terms of the strength of our government and our democratic institutions, we are definitely worse off. Yeah. Cast Iron Chaos says, this morning I made milkshakes by pouring a box of Betty Crocker cake mix into a jug and mixing in a couple of cups of milk. It worked. And I bet it was delicious too. My God. I'm down for that. Oh, Plasma Burn Death. Now, this is an interesting question. If haunted houses or ghost tours are scams, is wrestling a scam? Especially betting on things. Well, anybody who bets on wrestling is a fool. Anybody who bets on anything is a fool, really, in my book. But especially if you bet on professional wrestling, that is a worked, predetermined quasi sport. Like, if you bet on wrestling, you're an even bigger fool than people who bet on legitimate sports. But the question of, is it a scam? Now, here's the thing. You might have been able to make that argument 40 years ago and longer, you know, when the wrestling business was keeping kayfabe and wrestling promoters and wrestlers themselves never admitted publicly what the true nature of the business was. You might, especially going by the logic that I use in the Ghost Tours video, which is that, you know, the ghost tours take advantage of credulous people who believe in ghosts. You could make an argument, perhaps, that wrestling promoters were taking advantage of credulous people who thought that wrestling was a legitimate sport. You know, I mean, there are a lot of people who think that wrestling, just as a product, as a form of entertainment, was better and was in better shape back then, before everybody just admitted that everything was a work. But in terms of, could it be considered a scam? I mean, look, you know, there's a reason why even to this day, wrestling fan, the slang term for wrestling fans within the wrestling business and wrestling fan circles is mark. You know, wrestling fans were considered and are still considered marks, as in the mark of a con game. You know, a mark is what you are when you play 3-card Monty. You know, a mark is what you are when someone picks your pocket. You're a mark. You're the victim of a scam. And wrestling fans were called marks by people in the wrestling business, you know? So, I mean, and the origins of the wrestling business, it grew out of carnivals and traveling circuses. I mean, there is definitely a very, very, very disreputable part of it that has always been there. I think it's less, you can't really accuse it of being a scam now because the cat is out of the bag, and like, the wrestlers themselves and the promoters and the owners, everybody freely admits what it is. So it's not as if you can accuse them of trying to pull one over on the public because the secret's out now. But back in the day, even though in my opinion most people always knew it was fake, like, because you can tell, like, a real fight doesn't look like that. And even back in the 20s, even back in the 10s, I mean, wrestling back 100 years ago didn't look the same way that it looks now. Like, the style was very different and in many ways more realistic, but it's still not two people having a real fight. Like, you can tell that's just not the way a real fight works. Like, it just doesn't look like that. It doesn't operate like that. So, I feel like most people have always known, but there were some who didn't. There were some who believed. There were some who bought in. And there were some who kind of chose to, who knew that it wasn't on the up and up, but they enjoyed it. And they just kind of said, oh, fuck it, I like this. But the owners, the promoters, the wrestlers, they never, ever, ever, until the late 80s, they never, ever, ever openly admitted to the public that wrestling was anything other than a legitimate sport. So before that point, maybe you could say it was a scam. Yeah. And Brian Baker with another wrestling question. Your favorite wrestling match from WWE? Mine is Undertaker versus Mankind, Hell in a Cell. Favorite WWE match? It's either Steamboat versus Savage from WrestleMania 3, or it's Bret Hart versus Owen Hart from WrestleMania 10. I think those are my two favorite WWE, at the time, WWF matches. Yeah, and if I had to choose between them, probably Savage Steamboat. It's still to this day, I think, one of the greatest, if not the greatest wrestling match ever. Certainly greatest North American wrestling match ever, or one of them. 255 AD says that Star Trek show you suggested, even if the planet they're traveling to would be uninhabited, would it not be problematic to have a Star Trek show glorifying colonization? Who says it would glorify it? I said that would be the premise. I didn't say that the purpose of the show would be to glorify it. I think that would actually be a really good opportunity to tell stories that look at it from different perspectives, and that question it and interrogate it and criticize it. It's certain, if it was my show, it certainly would not be a pro imperialism show, even though that might be, a colonial expansion would be the premise of the show, but that doesn't mean that the purpose of the show would be to glorify that kind of thing. Certainly not glorify instances of it in actual history. Sinister Intelligence says, for your wagon train to the stars idea, what about a show focusing on the exploits of the very first Enterprise? No, not for my show. I'm not saying that if somebody else wanted to do a show about the first Enterprise and like the early years of human exploration, like, I'm not against that, but my show would not be about any Enterprise. My show would be about a ship that we've never heard of before. And I don't think it would be that early. Like, I don't think it would be, pre 22nd century, right? Like pre Archer Enterprise. I'm not sure when it would be. It would be probably sometime in the 23rd century. I don't know when. And like I said, it wouldn't matter when, actually, but it would probably be sometime in that era. But no, the ship would not be the Enterprise. The ship would not be any Enterprise. Super chat from Agent Chartreuse. Any plans for making Quantum Leap 89 content? Not specifically, but you never know. I mean, I love that show. And there are several episodes of the original Quantum Leap that I have, pretty decently well-formed opinions about, that I feel like I might be able to wring, a video thesis out of. So maybe, but I don't have any specific plans for it right now. But sure, I mean, I definitely could and would, because I love that show. Um, Simon Moody says being disreputable before talking about Vince McMahon, that is one hell of a bad start. Well, I mean, where did Vince come from? You know, I mean, yeah, Vince is a piece of shit. And looking at the totality of his career, you can make a case that he was like the worst, the most disreputable, the most detestable, and the most damaging, and destructive wrestling promoter of all of them ever. But he wasn't the first one. I mean, he came from somewhere. He came out of a system that was already there. And he learned it from somebody. I mean, he's also a piece of shit, but yeah, yeah. Super chat from Brian Baker. Back in the 70s, my grandmother would take out her teeth, drink Irish Rose whiskey, and cheer for Jimmy Snuka. Who was your gateway to pro wrestling? Hogan and Andre. Hogan and Andre. The first pro wrestling I ever remember seeing was an angle on, I think it was originally on Saturday Night's Main Event. I don't think I saw it on Saturday Night's Main Event. I think I maybe saw it replayed on one of the weekend shows like the following week. But it was in the build up to not the original Andre Hogan match at WrestleMania 3, but the rematch the following year that they did on prime time on NBC in February of 98. That was the highest rated wrestling match ever broadcast on television. They did an angle leading up to that on TV where it ended up with Andre choking out Hogan. And that was the first wrestling thing I remember ever seeing. And that's what got me hooked. Let's see what everybody else has been saying. Plasma Burn Death says, huge thank you for a detailed answer. Have a great weekend, everybody. Sorry I have to go now, and feel free to use that for a video, even just a clip from this live stream, not Trek actually, not like Trek actually. Thank you, Plasma Burn Death, and you have a good week and a good weekend too. Thanks for stopping by. Darth Eddie says, any match involving Bray Wyatt as The Fiend is always worth what. I was not a big fan of The Fiend stuff, to be honest. I didn't watch a lot of it. I was kind of off WWE at that point. But I've seen some of it since. I'm really not a big fan of the spooky shit. I loved Bray Wyatt in NXT, and I loved the early days of the Wyatt family when they first came into the main show. Some of those 6-man matches between the Wyatts and the Shield are amazing. Was it a Royal Rumble one year or the February pay-per-view one year where they had a 6-man tag between the Wyatt family and the Shield that was just tremendous. It was just great. And I loved like that version of Bray Wyatt. Once he got into the spooky supernatural shit, I was just like, I can't stand that shit. It's so boring and so hokey. But Bray himself, I mean, apart from his questionable creative instincts, just as a wrestler, I mean, he was fantastic. He was great. And a great talker. He was great. Dana's fading fast. Well, Dana, I'm going till 8:00 Eastern. So if you need to tap out early, you just go right ahead. Some random geek says, would you agree that wrestling is like soap opera crossed with figure skating for men? Maybe a little. I mean, there's definitely a soap opera part of it for sure. Yeah. But there's different elements that appeal to different people. Like the soap opera part appeals to me, but I also like, I've always just liked watching a good wrestling match. Like a good wrestling match has its own internal story that is informed by what we might call the soap opera stuff that took place before the match between the competitors. But the match itself, as it happens in the ring, also has its own unique story. And when that's done well, I just love that. Plain and Simple Jake said, I once found a book about pro wrestling by an insider from like 1910 or so. Even then, he felt the need to address the question of legitimacy and still admitted at least some matches were fixed. Yeah, that's the thing. It's pretty much always been what it is today. There really was never a period of professional wrestling history where it wasn't, where it was like a legitimate sport. It's always been a work. Matches have always been fixed or not. You can't even call them fixed. They're predetermined. You know, it's not even like a competitive match. It's, you know, they're making it look good, but they're not really having a fight. It's not like they have a fight and then one guy takes a dive at the end. Like they're not having a fight. They're making it look like they have a fight. But yeah, it's always been that way. We know that there were worked matches even before 1910, in the early 1900s, when it first started to become like a big spectator sport in the United States and also in Europe. They were working matches, you know. So yeah, it's always been, in one form or another, it's always been what it is. It was never quote unquote real at any point. Oh, Trinda says, did you think Mick Foley killed himself when Undertaker threw him from the top? I didn't think he killed himself, but the first time I saw that, it did blow my mind. I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, what did he do? My first thought was Mick, and I thought, this crazy motherfucker. What the fuck did he just do? All right, couple of super chats here that came in a bit ago. First one from Kirok. Thank you, my friend. Scott Bakula has scoffed at the idea of returning to a beloved series. I don't mean to dog Scott Bakula, but he had a chance to make fans happy. Well, so what? Why does he have to make the fans happy? Fuck that. Fuck that. What, he has a chance to make the fans happy, so he should do it if he doesn't want to do it? He's an actor. If he doesn't want to do the same shit that he did before, if he wants to do different stuff, then that's what he should do. Make the fans happy. Fuck the fans. What the fuck? I'm glad he did. Let me tell you something. If they decide, as far as I know, he wanted to do the new Star Trek show. He didn't want to do the new Quantum Leap, and good for him. I enjoyed the new Quantum Leap. It had its problems, but I mostly enjoyed it. But I wasn't mad at Scott Bakula for not being in it. I didn't want Scott Bakula to be in it. I wanted him to do a new show, and they did. No, fuck this fucking bull. You should fuck the fans. The fans of Quantum Leap got 5 years of a good show, and Scott Bakula was a huge part of that. And if he's done with it and he doesn't want to make any more, that's his decision, and good for him. Make the fans happy. Fuck that. There's way too much making the fans happy. That's 90% of the problem with entertainment today. Everybody's worried about making the fans happy, and they're not worried about making a good fucking show. Fuck the fans. And I say that as a fan. Fuck the fans. I don't want the writers and the producers and the actors worrying about how to make me happy. Make a good show. That'll make me happy. Fuck. And John Burns says, thanks for the Bruce McGill video. Runaway Jury, Animal House, and MacGyver. Great actor. Yes, great actor. And also Quantum Leap. Appeared in the first episode and the last episode as different characters. Darth Eddie says, the genius of what Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler did in the 80s cannot go unrecognized. Andy and Jerry made almost an entire nation forget that pro wrestling was scripted and a performance. Yes. And not only that, but that storyline between the two of them in Memphis ran for like a year. Like the entire country only focused on it for a little while because of the smack on David Letterman. But that thing between them ran for a year in Memphis. And it went through so many ups and downs. If you ever want to get just like a good kind of crash course on the basics of pro wrestling and the tropes and the way to tell storylines and that kind of stuff, there's a YouTube channel that has pretty much all of the important Lawler versus Kaufman stuff from that year in order that you can just watch. And it is like going to school on how to, tell a wrestling story. I mean, there's heel turns, there's shocking betrayals, there's matches, there's interviews. Like it's great. And yeah, and you're right. There were people that saw it on Jerry Lawler slap the shit out of Andy Kaufman on TV and thought, well, that can't be fake. I mean, I saw it. He really slapped that guy. And then he came back after the commercial and he cussed him out and they had to bleep him. Well, that can't be fake, right? And it was as fake as anything else has ever been in wrestling. But they made people believe. They made people who know better believe. And yeah, you're right. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Some more super chats have come in. Well, Kirok, then that's dumb. If you're saying you're shaming Scott Bakula, well, then that's dumb. You shouldn't do that. That's a dumb thing to do. Brian Baker with a super chat says, stage fighting like wrestling is exciting because of the athletic ability to interact and not actually hurt each other really badly. Yes, that's the art of it. Yeah, that's the art of it. You're supposed to make it look like it hurts without it hurting. Yeah, absolutely. Member message from Stephen Clenard. Let's have a Scott Spatula Variety Hour special. I would go for that. Yeah, exactly, Geek. I'm a fan of the show because of the writing and the characters, not because of the fan service. Exactly. And yeah, Cast Iron Chaos. That's a great point too. The DNC is trying too hard to make the fans happy. That's exactly what they're doing. That's yeah. You can quote me on that. Thank you for the super chat, Matthew Spradling. Thank you for the super chat. Fuck the fans, Steve Shives. You can quote me on that. Oh, Sinister Intelligent Isaiah, you're watching the new Superman tomorrow. Oh, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it, my friend. Yeah, exactly, Darth Eddie. A Valentine to the fans is how we got the Enterprise finale. Yeah. Yeah. And lots of other shitty stuff too. Oh, from Amara. Yeah. Thank you, Amara, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Kirok, yeah, I said I'm a fan, but I'm a fan because I like the show. You don't make a good show by pandering to the fans. You make a good show by having good writers and good storytellers and telling a good story. I mean, look, Ira Stephen Bear said it before I said it. Ira Stephen Bear said when he was the showrunner of Deep Space Nine, he said that their philosophy when they were writing Deep Space Nine was fuck the fans. We're going to make what we know is a good show. And the fans will find it. And the people who connect to it and appreciate it will like it. And people who think it's not for them won't watch it. That's not our job. Like, marketing the show is not our job. Our job is to make the best show that we can make. And you don't do that by saying, well, what do we do to make the fans happy? Fuck them. You make a good show. And the people that like it will hopefully find it and watch it. People that don't like it can fucking watch something else. You know, if I want to see Scott Bakula in Quantum Leap, I've got the whole fucking thing on DVD. I can watch it whenever I want. And I do. I love it. But am I going to fucking cry because he doesn't want to make a new one? No. He did it already. He did it. It's done. He's like fucking 60 or 70 years old now. He wants to do other shit. And I don't blame him. And he doesn't owe the fans a goddamn thing. That's another thing that people don't get. Well, the fans made him. He owes us. No, he doesn't owe you a fucking thing. He did his work. He did his work. It's done. He's not indebted to you. He doesn't have to come running when you say, we'd like some more Quantum Leap, please. He doesn't have to come running and say, oh, yes, of course, of course. That's not how this works. He did his bit. And if he's done, he's done. What we need is a Dear John letter to the fans. There you go, Stephen. That's great. 255 AD said, I once saw a documentary where, I'm glad you asked this question because I saw you ask this before and I wanted to get to it and I didn't get to it last time I saw you post it. Documentary where a guy said the scientific community is reluctant to admit ghosts exist no matter the evidence. It's too much of a paradigm shift. Thoughts on that nonsense? Yeah, I mean, it's similar to creationists have sometimes made the same argument about the theory of evolution, where they say, well, even if you prove to them that evolution is false, they'll never admit it because, they would have to admit that they were wrong and it would shake everything up too much. Ignoring the fact that the acceptance of evolution in the first place was a huge paradigm shift that still nonetheless happened eventually. We're ignoring the fact that the acceptance of the Big Bang Theory was a huge paradigm shift in cosmology, and yet it was accepted eventually when the evidence was there and enough people were persuaded. The theory of relativity, quantum mechanics. There have been numerous paradigm shifts in science in relatively recent history, like within the last century and a half, that were resisted at first because they were such a radical change. But once the evidence was there And scientists, serious scientists, could look at it and say, you know what, I think this is it, actually. I think this is right. Then it took hold. And just like people have said about creationists and anybody who could actually prove that evolution is not a valid theory. If anyone could really prove, if there really was evidence, they say no matter the evidence for ghosts, there is no evidence for ghosts. It doesn't exist. There's none. There's none. But if there was, and someone could prove it, like if one of these ghost hunting dipshits, one of these paranormal researcher jerk-offs could actually prove scientifically that ghosts exist, they would at least be collecting a Nobel Prize. And they would probably also be placing their name on scientist Mount Rushmore alongside Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin and, Edwin Hubble and Albert Einstein, right? Like the whole thing is ridiculous. Oh, the scientists won't, it's too much of a paradigm shift. They'll never admit it. No, they would totally admit it. And the person who was responsible for that discovery or making that persuasive argument or proposing that theory that wound up explaining it would be a legend and a hero in the scientific community. The reason why nobody in the scientific community accepts the evidence for ghosts is because it doesn't fucking exist. But that's a great question. And I'm glad that you posted it again, because I did want to answer that. And I think I didn't have a chance to last time you posted. Okay, a bunch of super chats came in. Thank you, everybody, so much. Stephen Clenard already got that one. Matthew Spradling, is this Amara again? Isn't his whole bit to appear across time whenever he's needed, though? That's Dr. Sam Beckett. That's not Scott Bakula. That's a good one, though. That's funny. Christian Daljo says, good content, Steve. I'm on your side in just make Star Trek with good new stories, no old actors. Thank you. It's good to have someone on my side. And thank you for the super chat. Brian Baker, here's one from Brian Baker, another super chat. A friend watched DS9 with me and calls Odo Columbo because of his investigation skills. Was DS9 a noir show? In some ways it was, yeah. In some ways it was. It's certainly the most noirish of the Star Treks, I would say, yeah. And Odo does have a little bit of a Columbo streak. I think, doesn't he even gets a just one more question, doesn't he, in one of the episodes? Yeah, Geek, I love The Last Jedi too, buddy. And you're absolutely right. It pissed off some of the fans. It pissed off the fans that should be pissed off because they're losers. But yeah, exactly. Last Jedi is the product of people who said, let's make what we know is a good movie. Let's tell the story we want to tell. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Oh, John Burns with a super chat. I made it a one-sided coin. Why? Marketing. Okay. Yeah, Kara, exactly. Not washing hands caused infection. He wasn't believed to. Yeah, sometimes it takes a while, but if there's real evidence, if it's a valid theory that you can actually back up, history shows that eventually it will become accepted by the scientific community. Yeah, absolutely. Infection is the germ theory. That's another example. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, let's see. DS9 is like the Bible to me, says Lynn of the Linkverse. I wouldn't go. I mean, I resist thinking of anything in those kind of reverent terms. But yeah, and exactly, Cast Iron Cast. Rise of Skywalker was the result of trying to make the fans, especially a particular group of fans, happy. But yeah, I wouldn't say DS9 is like the Bible, but it's one of my favorite shows. I think it's the best Star Trek show. I like it a lot. Oh man, Darth Eddie, Jack Cassidy as a Cardassian. Yeah, he did. I can picture it. The idea is good. I like that. Kirak with a member message. You have a point with ghosts, but you have no argument with other alien life not existing or space travel being impossible. 150 years, the notion of going to the moon was fiction. Just saying. Well, nobody's saying that alien life can't exist. I'm just saying it hasn't come to Earth. That's the argument. The argument, at least from my point of view, I'm not saying there are no aliens. I don't know. Given the size of the universe and how many stars have planets, and just given like the number of different opportunities that we can realistically guess there are for life to arise, I think there almost certainly are some alien life forms somewhere other than here. But have they visited Earth? I don't know of any actual evidence of that. That's the argument. Not aliens don't exist. No, aliens aren't coming here and, abducting people and fucking rectally probing them and all that horse shit. That's the thing that's the equivalent of ghosts, not whether or not aliens actually exist. President, yeah, John Burr, yeah, that's exactly right. The president died. Doctors kept fingering him. That was Garfield, wasn't it? Yeah, that was Garfield, because he was shot and he lingered for a long time. And people say now that one of the reasons that he died was because the doctors kept trying to retrieve the bullet, and he became infected as a result of their efforts to retrieve the bullet, and he died more of that than he died of the actual bullet wound. 'Air1Fire'. I know Rowan J. Coleman. I know who Rowan J. Coleman is. I don't know for a fact if I've ever watched a Rowan J. Coleman video. I may have, but I mean, I also may not have. I probably haven't. No, I love the X-Files. I love the X-Files, Isaiah. I love the X-Files. X-Files is one of my favorite shows ever. Because it's a show, it's fiction. I'm not against like fictional stuff about ghosts and aliens. I love the X-Files. I love the X-Files. I love Josh Johnson too. Josh Johnson is hilarious. That's a great recommendation. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his. 255 AD says, do you think Richard Dean Anderson and Bakula ever run into each other at cons and bond over the fact that it's annoying everyone is obsessed with shows where they didn't play space heroes? I mean, it's interesting. Oh, Isaiah, you were joking. I wonder what they, because like, in my experience, just as a fan, there are always like, especially because I do MacGyver videos. There are always people who leave comments in my MacGyver videos wanting to talk about Stargate. And I wonder if like the equivalent of that would get annoying. Like if Scott Bakula or Richard Dean Anderson, like they wanted to talk about MacGyver or Quantum Leap, but there was always that one fan that wanted to ask like the Stargate question or the Star Trek question. And they were like, God damn it. Why'd I have to do the Star Show? I mean, obviously, I'm sure they made money. They're not sorry that they did it. But, in terms of having to deal with that fan base that is like, yeah, your other work is great. What about the Star Show? That might get a little annoying. I mean, I'm sure Richard Dean Anderson is like, I mean, yeah, Stargate was a great show. Stargate was, but fuck, MacGyver was on for 7 years, y'all. It's not like it was just some, just like a blip on the radar screen that disappeared. It's not like it was this funny little cult show that ran for a year. Like it was a pretty big part of my career. I don't know. But anyway, it's after 8:00. I am going to wind this up. Thank you all so much for being here. Yeah, no more super chats for the moment. I'm going to do my usual end of show spiel, and then I will go back and take one last look at the chat and see if there are any final questions or comments, and then we'll call it a night. How's that sound? So first of all, some random geek was putting the links in the chat earlier I will recommend that you take a look at those and make use of those if you can afford to and would like to help out friends of ours in need. And also, don't forget charitylinks.page, which is linked in the description of this video and is also in the chat now as I see Geek dropping it back in. Thank you very much, my friend. Help out some friends of ours who need a helping hand if you are able and willing to do so. Also, don't forget, I am only able to do this here YouTube channel because of generous supporters like you folks. So if you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you would like to help me to continue doing it and you can afford it, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com or becoming a channel member by clicking the join button. And either way, whether you become a patron or a member, if you become one of those at any level of support whatsoever, from $1 a month on up to however much you can afford to give me, one of the perks that you can take advantage of is you can submit questions ahead of time for these twice monthly Ask Away live streams. Those are the questions that I answer in the first part of the show. They were submitted ahead of time by some of my patrons and members, and that is an opportunity that all patrons and members have in the week leading up to the Ask Away live stream. So if that sounds interesting to you, or if you don't give a shit about that, you just want to help me to continue doing this YouTube thing, patreon.com/Steve Shives, or click the join button to become a member. Thank you so much, all of you who are patrons and members. I could not do this without you. Also, if you enjoy the YouTube stuff, you might enjoy the podcasts that I'm on. I'm a part of two podcasts that are in the Lemmy Listen podcast family. There is Late Seating, the movie review podcast that I co-host alongside the brilliant and wonderful and hilarious Jason Harding, who is also my very best friend in the whole world. And it's a movie review podcast where we take a look at classic films and see if they deserve their reputation, be it good or bad. Our most recent episode is our review of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So if you have ever wondered what Jason and I think about Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, now's your chance. Check out the new episode of Late Seating. And we are also on a show called The Ensign's Log, which is a Star Trek themed improv comedy podcast. It's myself and Jason and our friend Amanda Billings, and we play original characters that we have created who exist in the Star Trek universe. And our own sort of adventures are happening in the foreground of our show, while canonical Star Trek stuff happens in the background. It's a fun show to do. If you enjoy Star Trek, if you enjoy satires of Star Trek, parodies of Star Trek, funny Star Trek stuff that is clearly affectionate towards Star Trek, but also very, very, very irreverent towards Star Trek. That is our show, and I hope you will check it out, and you will enjoy it if you do. Now, let me take one last peek over here at the live chat and see what people have to say. And let me see. I saw, Trinda said X-Files, 10 seasons, about 6 good ones. Yeah, it's about right. I'm so sad about David Lynch still, but he got to do Twin Peaks season 3, and I'm glad that it answered basically nothing. Me too. Oh, I love Twin Peaks season 3. And the fact that he was clearly doing what he wanted to do and not giving a single fuck about fulfilling expectations is one of my favorite parts about it. I love it so much. And I love it for its own. I love it not just because of that. Just it's a really cool, interesting, surreal series. I really, really liked it. But yeah, that was the icing on the cake, that it's like, oh, he's doing this his way. He's not worried about, fulfilling any fan expectations. Good for him. Let me see. Brian Baker, you don't ever have to apologize for being chatty. Be as chatty as you want, my friend, whether you toss in super chats or not. It's great when you're chatty. It's great when everybody's chatty. DS9, I'm not sure what the super chat problem was, but thanks for trying. He said, are you familiar with Michael Spicer, and would you please collaborate with him? I am not familiar with Michael Spicer, so I apologize for my ignorance. Bill Bixby had a show called The Magician. Yes, he did. An illusionist Hulk. Well, an illusionist David Banner, at least. Again, Brian, you don't have to apologize for being chatty. I love it. That's the whole point. It's called the chat. Chat away, my friend. 255 AD said, would it be possible to make a story set in the Trek universe that was conservative but still a well-told story? If yes, how would you review it? I would review it like I would review anything else. I would review it on its own merits as a show and decide whether it worked for me or didn't based on what I watched. I mean, I wouldn't review it any differently because it had Star Trek in the title. You know, I might end up having to say, like you say in your question, it might be bad Star Trek, but a good story. Maybe that would be my take on it. I don't know. We're just speaking hypothetically, but I mean, I review everything the same. I don't approach it differently because it's Star Trek or because it's something else. I would watch it. I would figure out what I think about it, what I feel about it, and I would try my best to articulate that. Darth Eddie says, your chemistry with Jason in the Picard episode watches always makes me laugh. Him defending Picard episodes and you shitting on them is great comedy, and I love rewatching this. Well, thank you. They were so much fun to do. Jason is a great guy to hang out with, and he's especially a great guy to review stuff with. So, yeah. The Jason reference to you looking like the Rainbow Bright villain was the kind of pop culture. I love a good Rainbow Bright reference myself. All right, let's call that a night, though. Let's call it a night on that note. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for chatting. Thank you for all your support in whatever form it takes, whether that is monetary or whether it's just watching and hanging out and being a part of this. I appreciate you all so much. Have a good night. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.